Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm known to you as COVID-19. COVID stands for coronavirus disease, and the 19 refers to the year in which I was first discovered, 2019. Most of you have really only become acquainted with me in 2020, but the 19 will be my permanent suffix. It doesn't mean, as one of Donald Trump's mouthpieces, Kellyanne Conway, once observed, that there have been 18 coronaviruses before me. This is COVID-19, not COVID-1, folks. And so you'd think that the people charged with the World Health Organization facts and figures would be on top of that, she said, just over a month ago. No, Kelly, the 19 refers to the year of my discovery, and there may well be other COVIDs with higher numerical suffixes visited upon you in future years. But I'm rather proud of my impact on the world stage. Remember early January when I first showed up in Wuhan and was dismissed as being a Chinese problem? Once I began to spread, some of you even figured that vilifying Chinese people was an effective way of dealing with the situation. A rather predictable xenophobic response to a global pandemic. You see, one of the things I've managed to bring home to you is that you humans are all interconnected. In these days of global travel, it simply isn't possible for you to shield yourselves from something invisible and contagious like me. And it really is time you humans learned that irresponsible behavior of one group of people, or even an individual, doing something like burning the Amazon rainforest, or denying the reality of climate change, or even just carelessly discarding a plastic container, ultimately affects you all. If I achieved nothing else, then raising awareness of that collective human responsibility will count as a fine achievement. But I like to think I've done much, much more than that. First of all, and despite the opinions of those who bizarrely continue to claim that I'm just a hoax, I've infected over 30 million people and caused the deaths of close to 1 million of those. And that's since December the 31st, 2019. So please don't be fooled by the 19. I'm very much a 2020 phenomenon. And I shall probably go on wreaking my effect into 2021. Don't kid yourselves. Hoax indeed. Pah. Please don't expect me to be sympathetic. I'm a virus. I don't have emotions or feelings. My job is to infect and attack living organisms, seek out their weakest points and infect them. Please don't get sentimental. It's nature. It's what nature does. Of course, I bring pain and suffering and death and grief. That's nature. It's not just mountains and sunsets. Mind you, having said that, one of the effects I had on you at the very beginning, apart from the pain and the death thing, was actually to encourage you to appreciate nature. Remember that? You called it lockdown. If you'd bothered to ask her, nature would have called it wake up. Aeroplanes stopped traversing the skies above you. Cars and trains came to a halt. You went for walks. You heard the birds sing for the first time in ages. The air became clearer. You started to communicate with other members of your household instead of merely passing them in the kitchen as you all rushed off to various destinations. Everything and everyone slowed down. Your seemingly insatiable need to purchase worthless items abated. Of course, the need to bulk buy what you regarded as essential items demonstrated the predictable and shameful levels of selfishness and greed that have come increasingly to characterize and brutalize so many modern societies. If anyone asked me, which you wouldn't because I'm just a silent, invisible killer virus, I'd say that if there were a phrase to characterize the way you live right now, I'd call it the age of entitlement. And then it really got interesting. I began to run into opposition. Not a major threat, I'm a pretty powerful virus, but you humans rallied and tried to find ways of dealing with me medically. Not very effectively, but you tried. And that's part of nature too. It's in your nature to survive, to recover, and to seek to defeat the likes of me. You're getting better at it, but so are we. That's nature too. But the most remarkable thing that happened was that you suddenly realized who were the important people in your lives. It wasn't the celebrities and the politicians, the wealthy and the famous. It was ordinary people doing extraordinary jobs in hospitals and in public transport and in supermarkets and in refuse collection. It was those who donated, collected and delivered food parcels for the ones who were vulnerable and isolated. And one evening a week you went out and you clapped for them. Of course, that wasn't going to do anything to minimize my destructive effect on your puny little bodies, but it gave a glimpse of something of which you were capable, individuals, as a society, as a species, the ability to appreciate. That's something your ancestors possessed in abundance. In their ancient communal and tribal groups, in their early societies, they cultivated a keen awareness of and appreciation for nature. When it was benevolent and brought them blessing, they thanked it. When it was cruel and brought storm or drought or disease, they feared it and created ways of appealing to what they believed was the power that controlled it and them. They watched the movement of the moon and the passing of the seasons and began to perceive patterns that protected and supported them and enabled them to flourish and grow. That too was part of nature. But you lost touch with the sense of gratitude that greeted such phenomena. You cultivated a society based exclusively on acquisition rather than well-being, that saw ruthless exploitation as more profitable and beneficial to the human race than respect and preservation. You became arrogant, believing that you no longer had any need to respect nature or acknowledge your dependence on it. You ruled it, so you thought. And so I came along to remind you that you don't rule this world, and you really need to cultivate some respect for nature, like your ancestors once did. And here at this new moon festival, which anticipates the harvest, when you hear the ancient sound of the ram's horn, here you have an opportunity to reconnect with nature. But still you insist on trying to convince yourselves that you can defeat me, that you can return to your old ways and continue to live in your age of entitlement. And so, guess what? I'm back again. My role is to remind you of your vulnerability, your dependence, your susceptibility, your weakness. The role of a new moon festival, of your ancestors' customs, is to reconnect you with the natural world of which you are a part. You do not exist above it or separate from it. We are all one. Leave behind your age of entitlement. Remember those days when you were obliged to slow down and you listened to your world and appreciated those who cared. You placed compassion above acquisition, sharing above ownership, community above individuality. COVID-19, will still control your lives for some time to come. Perhaps I will only leave once you've replaced your hollow, meaningless age of entitlement with a new thoughtful and compassionate age of appreciation. Perhaps one day history books will celebrate me, COVID-19, as the harbinger of a new world. I'm not. I'm a lethal, destructive virus. Don't forget that. But perhaps in the eyes of much of the natural world, so are you. It really is time to learn some humility, cultivate some respect for your world and for each other. The age of entitlement is over. From this havoc I have wrought upon the illusion that is your civilization, let the age of appreciation begin. May this new moon festival herald it, and may you be the bearers of its message of salvation and of hope. Amen.